Our very first candidate this evening will be Mr. Billy Kenoi, candidate for mayor, former executive assistant to Mayor Harry Kim. Billy, thank you for joining us. And let's appreciate it. Now, let's start out with the first question, and that is, why do you want to be mayor?
Well, the bottom line is being born and raised here, Ken. I mean, and having a deep love for this beautiful island we call home. It'll be the home the rest of my life. I'm not planning to move anywhere. I raised my family here. And all we want is the best for our community, and I decided to give our community a choice of leadership. We've maintained very simple values throughout this campaign that will work in every single community. Our campaign schedule is every Monday, Tuesday, Kona, every Wednesday, Thursday, Hilo Hamakua, every Friday, Saturday, Puna Ka'u. The idea that we can really solve, I truly believe we can solve all of our challenges that face us on this island and in this community if, one, we all work together, and two, everybody in every community feels like they're part and a meaningful part of the solution. And that's the purpose of our campaign, and that's why I'm running.
Thank you, Billy. We know that you've had a chance to work with Mayor Kim extensively, and I'd like to know if there are particularly any policies that he put into motion that you think you would particularly like to see continued or expanded, and if there's any particular policies that he had promoted that you would like to stop.
The first policy that I've worked on and we'd like to see expanded is expanded bus service to everyone in every community for the very simple reason that it benefits everyone in our community. It allows our seniors to have access and affordable access to health care and to programs and services. It allows our youth to be involved in positive recreational after-school activities, which we know are critical to keeping them away from drugs, gangs, and violence. It allows our hardworking families and employees to get to and from work. We know that with increased population, limited infrastructure, we continue to have traffic congestion in every community. Waimea, Puna, and Kona is especially acute. And we can alleviate and mitigate that if we get cars off of the road and get people onto an expanded bus service that serves our entire island community. We, of course, have a kokua zone that offers free ridership to our community. That's going to happen for the next 3 years. I'd like to see that expanded through federal funding and to have our community get used to it and to trust it. And if it's safe, timely, and efficient, that'll happen. I'd like to see that happen. Any policies that I'd like to see stopped, not necessarily. I don't think there's any glaring policy from the Kim administration that is adverse to the best interests of our community. I certainly would be more engaged, I think, in every one of our communities and spread out county government. In going around throughout this campaign, people in Ka'u and Kohala, people in Volcano, Puna, Hamakua, they feel disengaged from government. And so I think a lot of that has to do with communication. I mean, both as an attorney and a public servant, when we try to resolve a dispute, it's either because of a lack of communication or a miscommunication. And I think in government, that's the same as well. When we have challenges in our community, a lot of times it's a lack of communication or miscommunication between government and a community. So I definitely improve that sector of our administration. But other than that, I have a lot of love and aloha for Mayor Kim. I think he's an honorable man who brought openness and trust to county government, and I'd like to continue that openness and trust in county government.
With regard to the transportation system that you have talked about, are we talking about just buses, or is there something that is comparable to what you envision that we can do with this island that you could kind of paint a little picture for us?
I think for immediate implementation, we're talking buses, we're talking minibuses to service our rural subdivisions, and we're talking paratransit vehicles to service our disadvantage in our community. But yeah, we're not talking rail. When people ask me about rail, I said there was one rail study done from Keohole to Keoho, a 14-mile segment in Kona, and it penciled out to $167 million a mile, making it a $2.5 billion project. So that's not feasible. What we're talking about is a $25 million project that expands our bus system and makes it reach everywhere in the community, and also provides bus stops and bus shelters, safe areas for people to be engaged in the transportation system. And people go, 25 million. I say, well, to compare that, we're renovating the county building in Hilo for 28 million. We're building a county building in West Hawaii for $50 million. And when we build a new roadway, by the time we do our engineering and environmental studies, we're talking about $4 to $6 million per mile. So we're talking about expanding a system that would be comparable to a 6-mile road. So I think it's a cost-effective, feasible way in a short period of time to provide transportation to everyone in our community. And in a tough economy, when that dollar becomes tight and there's very little discretionary spending in a family, when you're trying to save, but you can't save on housing or your mortgage, you can't save on food, but what you can save on is vehicle and fuel costs. And at an average at $400 to $700 per vehicle per family, if we can get people onto a transit system, we allow that local dollar to go back into the family's pocket and back into the local economy. So it's a win-win-win-win-win, if you ask me about that system.
And you think that we could actually get people to rely on it somewhat like how they do in Honolulu, where that's one of the things they actually have done real well as a bus
Absolutely.
system?
And it's a model across the country. You know, and when people ask me, I said, you know, I had to go to college here for years, hitchhiking from Puna every day. That's how I got to and from school. You know, but when I was on Oahu, I got to law school and I worked downtown, all on a bus system. You know, me and my wife owned a moped for years, and that's all we had. And, you know, and it worked. And it can work here. I've sat with Tom Brown. I've sat with the experts. Ken, I've gone to Honolulu and sat with their transportation people. I sat with their transit experts, and they say it's very feasible and very doable here on our island. And because we have a 4,028 square mile island with 174,000 people, small community, big island, we need a bus system to make that work. Now, could we be Iceland, who has geothermal energy and has a hydrogen-powered transit system? Well, that's far off, and it's a great long-term goal and vision. But realistically, we can implement this system in a 24-month time period. And when you ask people, I've gone into every community throughout, you ask the kids after school, what do you need? They tell us we need transportation. You know, 83% of our resort development is in South Kohala. You look at the top 10 employers of the state. We can talk about a diversified economy all we want. The number one employer in our community is hospitality. 6 of the top 10 employers on the island of Hawaii are the resorts in South Kohala. But people who work there cannot afford to live there. Where do they live? Ocean View, Ka'u, Puna, Hilo, and Hamakua. Now, if we can provide our workers that opportunity to transit through a bus system, now we've taken all of those cars off of the road. They're safer during the commute. And again, that money goes back into their pocket and the economy. Sorry for so long an answer.
No problem. We asked you the questions.
As you mentioned, there are a lot of families that are starting to hurt on the Big Island, and the economic projections look pretty bleak, to put it bluntly.
Yes.
What do you see the role in county government and perhaps lowering some taxes to get some more money back in families' pockets, as you say? And if so, how? Are there any particular taxes that you would like to point out that you would look for reductions?
Good question, Todd. You know, and you got to be honest. I mean, it's the simplest thing for somebody running for office to say, hey, we're going to reduce taxes. You know, I've gone to forums and heard reduction of taxes combined with an increase in services, and that's just not possible. You know, that's not being realistic. Clearly, we can reduce agricultural taxes because we need to support our agricultural industry. It currently generates 4,000 jobs and $160 million a year in revenue. We need to encourage and continue to support agriculture because they're going to be hard hit in these tough economic times. That's going to affect everybody in the community. No question about it. We're in for a challenging next few years. We've recently capped the homeowner property tax rate, regardless of the increase in your valuation of your home. It's capped at 3% increase, so people aren't taxed out of their homes. But we also have to understand we have a growing population. We have to provide first responder needs, increase police, increase fire into our rural communities that continue to grow. I mean, Hawaiian Ocean View has 10,000 lots. Paradise Park alone, 8,842 lots. We've got 50 to 70,000 lots in Puna. We have a growing population with growing demands for county services. County can increase the services we provide without increasing taxes by advocating for growth in our economy. You know, and that means expanding our university and community college system, which is a clean economic engine. The only restriction on growth here at the University of Hawaii at Hilo is housing. The county can get involved in that by expediting the permitting process and facilitating investment and expansion of housing here in East Hawaii. We need to help grow the community college in West Hawaii and then expand educational services there, because our teenagers and young adults in West Hawaii either have to travel to Manoa, travel to Hilo, or go without higher education. When we all know that higher education is the great equalizer of our society. We want a healthy economy. We want a healthy workforce. We want a healthy economy with workers with discretionary spending. Then we need an educated workforce and an educated community. And that means we have to invest in higher education. I've talked with High Technology and Science Council. People are encouraged and want to bring high technology jobs here to Hawaii Island because there's room to grow. And we have talent that wants to come home but haven't come home. People go away to get educated and don't come back home. So it's technology and it's energy. We have the infrastructure to be the first energy sustainable community in the entire country, with geothermal, with solar, with wind, with deep sea ocean energy conversion. It's crazy that our current energy grid has us at 76% fossil fuel, 17% geothermal, 5% solar, 2% wind. That's an area of growth that is achievable in the near term and the short term. So we grow our economy, we increase the economic base of our island community, and we can continue to provide services. But I think our current tax base, I'd have to take a real close look at that, Todd, in a tough economy to see where we cut. Because if we're cutting taxes, we're cutting also services, and some of them essential.
When we talk about county government and all that, we so often refer to roads and trash.
Absolutely.
and solid waste is a big one. The Hilo landfill is operating on a series of extensions, correct, and those are eventually going to run out. So what is your plan, or how would you go about trying to go and come up with a plan for disposal of solid waste in the short term and the long term?
It's a good question. Back in 1992, we had our integrated solid waste management plan. We punt for 8 years. Back in 2000, we update our integrated solid waste management plan. We sent out RFPs to 112 companies around the world and around the country. Come in and help us solve it. We get 13 initial bidders. We get down to 3. We get down to 2. Requests for proposals come in because, like you said, the Department of Health and the EPA have granted us, frequent waivers to extend the life of the landfill here in East Hawaii. So we finally get a Wheelabrator proposal that converts waste to energy. It's going to take our trash, burn it, create steam. Steam turns the turbines. We got energy. What is that for? We generate 300 tons of trash a day here in East Hawaii, but our recycling rate is only at 25%, taking out 75 tons from the waste stream, leaving us with 225 tons. So the county had an opportunity. It was a proposal that was years in the making. $1.2 million was invested in the process. It was a transparent and open process. And all the county had to do, the county council, was say yes to further information, yes to furthering the process along. They had 3 more opportunities to say no. One was a final design and build. And if we didn't like it after the final design and build cost, we could have said no, walk away free of charge. If we said, okay, let's go further, there would have been a final and thorough environmental review. So we could have determined, have relevant, accurate, timely information as to any adverse impacts from waste to energy on our environment and in our community, especially with so many water catchment systems. That would have been good information to have. Do I have a minute left? So
that's our minute. Yeah.
Okay. So, but we didn't. And if we said, okay, then we would have had the opportunity to work out per kilowatt hour costs. And then we could have walked away then. But instead, we said no. So what are we left with? Now we've got to go back, create a new integrated solid waste management plan that they have to create in the spring. And then we can move forward with a subsequent RFP. But in the short term, Ken, you mentioned it. It's either bailing and barging, trucking to Pu'uanuhulu, and in the long term, either a new landfill or some other waste to energy or like-minded proposal. We missed our opportunity because we lacked political will, but we cannot continue to punt solid waste to future generations. It's going to cost a lot. It's not going to get any cheaper. And our trash amount isn't going to decrease, only increase.
Safe to say that one of the first appointments you'd make would be Director of Environmental Management.
I'm looking for the best and brightest, Ken. I've made no commitments. I've told everybody that our community needs new, innovative, creative thinkers, people who bring the skill set to be good leaders, also good managers, good communicators. I mean, that's what our community needs.
The candidates
Billy,
have
thank you
2
so
minutes
much.
to
Hey,
move
thank
on
you,
to the
Ken.
next
Thank you,
table.
Todd.
Thank you very much.
Okay, appreciate it. Billy Kenoi, candidate for mayor, former executive assistant to Mayor Harry Kim.